We do that. And at the end of the training today, we will post this up on our website. So you can share it or view it or go back and look at some information that you might want to review. Just one little caveat to that recording. It is recording the chat box. And so just full disclosure here, we are going to see what you write in the chat box in the recording later. So just so you know. All right. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speakers today. Melissa and Yesenia and Shauna and Becky are all going to thrill us with what resilience looks like. I'm excited about this. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Shauna. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you can take it away. Can't hear you, Shauna.
We can hear you now, Shauna.
Can you? Okay. All right. I wasn't sure if you could hear me or not. So let me get started. I need to, okay, there we go. So I just want to welcome each one of you here today. Today is Veterans Day. We'd like to thank the veterans and their families for serving our country. We're so grateful that they have made the sacrifices that they do on a daily basis. And I want to thank you too for joining us. Today is Wednesday, November 11th, 2020, and there's never been a day like today. We are here and we're just excited that you've joined us. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the original people of the land. And I want to just say that how much we are grateful and respect the elders of the original people of the land. So if there's wherever you are, this map represents Oregon, and we want to just pay respects to the elders past and present, and also the future elders. So I'm grateful that you're here. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath, and we're going to let it out, and we are going to get started today. So today's really special. We're going to be centering Black, Latino, and senior voices. Our friend Lisa from the Grand Ronde Tribes isn't able to join us today. She is with us in spirit, and she has graciously said we can use and can share one of the rituals that her community does. So my name is Shauna Signorini, and I am the proud parent of two young adults. One experiences a new neurodevelopmental disability. And when I was trying to get help for her, it was really challenging. And it wasn't until I found someone with a similar lived experience that I began to feel hope. And they taught me a lot of things. They didn't solve all my problems, but one of the things they taught me is that when my child is in crisis, and actually all the time, but especially when my child is in crisis, it's important for me to take really good self-care. And so what I learned, I began to learn what self-care is and what it isn't. And the Oregon Family Support Network invited me to share with them about what I had learned. And we enjoyed the process so much, we ended up sharing at a conference in Atlanta. And I've been teaching about it ever since, and that was in 2010. So today we have brought in some really fantastic women. I'm so excited for you to meet them. We have Yesenia, who's a proud Mexican-American woman who lived in LA for the first 12 years of her life. And she describes that time as being very similar to my big fat Greek wedding, except with a Mexican-American experience. And when she had her first son, he was born with disabilities and she needed additional help. So she reached out to her parents, and she and her family have lived with her parents ever since, or they've lived together. And they have also welcomed a daughter into the family. We also have Melissa from Inspired Boldness. Melissa is an unapologetic Black woman who is a social worker or social working life coach and And she is an advocate for people with wellness and mental health and radical self-care. And she invites people and encourages them to live authentically on their own terms. And last but certainly not least, we have a powerhouse in Becky, who lives down in Klamath Falls. And Becky she has lived there for 40 years. She's raised 10 girls, 10 of them. I'm in awe of her. And she also helps in her community. And she's been raising her grandson since he was a baby, and he's now 16, and he experiences mental health challenges. So I want to welcome everyone and invite you to listen to Melissa as she shares a little bit more about herself.
Donna, thank you so much for that super warm introduction. It's really sweet. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here today, and thank you for Shauna and everyone that put this on. This disability network I'd never heard of, as I live in Portland, but it's phenomenal, and I've been playing around on your website, and I'm glad for the work that you do. So again, my name is Melissa, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the daughter of Johnny, who is the daughter of Annie, who is the daughter of Gertrude. I'm also the owner of Inspired Boldness, a wife, a daughter, friend, and advocate. And I, again, just want to thank you all for coming, and I hope that you're able to learn techniques that will help you to thrive and live your best life. Next, we have Becky, with whom I've had the pleasure of getting to know over these past few weeks.
Hi, my name is Becky, and I've been a resident of Klamath County for about 20 years. My husband and I moved here from Lake County shortly after placing our young teenage daughter in a program here for out-of-control youth. I became involved with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, at the Klamath Falls affiliate, after taking the NAMI Family to Family class for the first time. I found out that all those 25 people in that first class sounded like they lived in my house. I learned that my daughter was struggling with some issues, and that with a little education from NAMI, I could help her. I have been involved with NAMI for about 18 years and have been the president for the last 11 years. When my daughter had her first child, I got involved with Grandparents as Parents. After a few years, Grandparents as Parents became a nonprofit, and I became the secretary. So I've been involved with them for about 16 years. I also represent NAMI Klamath at the suicide coalition called You Matter to Klamath. I also volunteer for the last 5 years with the Warming Center here in Klamath Falls, but I'm speaking to you today mainly as a grandparent raising a grandchild with mental health issues.
Thank you, Becky. And then my name's Yesenia, and I work for Central Oregon Disability Support Network as well. They have a program under CODSN, which is Family Advocacy and Support Network, which is locally here in Klamath Falls. And we work with families who have children experiencing disabilities. And I came to know a lot more since my son was born 9 years ago, and he experiences disabilities. So during this, I'll be mentioning a lot my son and my daughter. So you'll be getting to know me a little bit more as we go through, but Shauna did an amazing job introducing me. So yeah, just visualize my big fat Greek wedding in a Mexican American. And that is me. Thank you.
Awesome food. So, as you can see, we're all very different. Just like each one of you on our Zoom webinar today are really different. Some of us rely on our various faiths, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, or maybe you just have your own type of spirituality, or maybe you don't at all have any of those. Maybe that doesn't resonate with you. Maybe perhaps you have a strong connection to nature, or maybe you just really don't like being outside. Maybe you have a really big support system, or maybe you have a small support system. We just want you to know that there's no one way to do self-care. Your self-care is totally unique to you. So we're going to discuss some universal ideas on self-care, but know that you have to put it through your own lens and see if it works for you. As we were talking and beginning this discussion, the speakers and I brought up the idea of routine, which is really commonly spoken about as far as managing stress, making things known. And what I learned from these amazing speakers is that there are sometimes in some lifestyles that routine is really hard to put into practice and almost impossible. So with that being said, there's others that they have to have their routine. So what I really want you to do is just focus on glean what you can from each of these amazing, strong women. It's just really, they just have some very powerful stories. So we invite you to get comfy, to have grace for yourself and others. Practice self-care as you wish. You can see I have my tea here today. Engage as you wish. I really appreciate folks who are typing in. Please do that. We really love to hear from you in the audience. But if you just want to sit there and take it in with your eyes closed, however you show up today, we're happy you're here. Like I said, November 11th, 2020. One for the record books. This has been quite the year. For many of us, you have dealt with things like unemployment. We've dealt with the COVID-19 crisis that even if you haven't experienced it yourself or had a loved one experience it, then you still have been impacted by it, by the way you may not be able to find toilet paper or other goods at the grocery store, the mask you have to wear. The election, the politics that are going on, the fight for social equity and for racial justice that's been going on in our country. So there's just a lot going on. And I just want you to know that we invite you here today, however you are. We invite you, if you have a child who needs you, please, by all means, meet their needs and invite them to sit on your lap. If you have a kitty or a puppy, yay, where are those pluses in that? Use the pluses to agree. So today, like I said, we're going to recognize and acknowledge where we are today, knowing that this year has brought some a lot of hardships. Maybe you're even home educating distance learning with your children, which is a huge challenge on a day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, depending on how well your child and your school district and your ability to get the support you need are going. So we want to acknowledge and recognize that. We're going to talk about some resilience boosters, which is really my favorite thing. The flip side of trauma and hardship is resilience. And so I know we're all, we're getting our resilience muscles built up. And then we're going to talk about some next steps. So here we go. Yesenia?
Perfect. So stress and the right supports. As I mentioned, I have a son with disabilities. So one of the things that we talk about is stress does not cause burnout. Stress and pressure without the right supports does. For example, many people approach me and say, I don't know how you do it with your son. It must be so hard. And my answer is always, I'm so blessed to have amazing support from family. I don't do it alone. Like the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child.
And I have been part of a NAMI support group for about 18 years, talking out wounds and anger issues, as well as the positive things that happen in my life, I find very beneficial. NAMI has showed me that I am not alone, and there are others may have good ideas to help me cope. The Grandparents as Parents support group has also been a lifesaver quite often when I find my world falling apart. I am also able to offer resources as well as compassion for many of those people coming in. There isn't a person on the planet that wouldn't benefit from talking out their feelings and thoughts on a regular basis. I engage in conversation with many different people who feed wisdom and positivity into my world, thus keeping me encouraged.
And I love that. It's that reciprocal piece that you're talking about, Becky. And we don't always have to have the right answer. So much of it is just being present. So as we talk today, I want to share about, there's two types of self-care. There's self-care for regular maintenance, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And then we're also going to talk about some emergency refueling. So you know what that's like. Usually if we get enough sleep and we get our water in and we eat relatively healthy and we get a little bit of fun in there, we're able to do okay. But there's sometimes where we're completely drained. And when you are completely drained, we know how important it is to reach out and get that help that you need. So if you do need help, we've got resources that are listed in the chat, and we invite you. We'll have our emails at the end of this, at the end, and we'll be able to, you can reach out to us as well. And Melissa wants to share with us.
Shauna, you're absolutely right. It tends to be that whenever we get to times of extreme stress, the first thing that goes is the consumption of water. So I'm going to invite everybody to take a sip of whatever you'd like to. So I'd invite you to also do what's called a brain dump. So with the brain dump, I want you to grab some paper and a writing utensil. So this is a stream of consciousness exercise. You're going to write steadily for 2 minutes. You're not going to worry about your grammar, your spelling. The idea of this is twofold. One, it's to figure out what's really bugging you. What's a stressor that you may not have realized was as much of a stressor or occupying as much of your brain. So think of this as dumping out your purse, your suitcase, or your backpack in effort to find something that got lost inside of that bag, right? So just take a couple of minutes and start writing.
And please know that you won't have to share this with anyone. So this is just for your own personal use. We have about 30 seconds left. Okay. So I remember when I did this, one of the first times I did this during the quarantine, I was surprised at how much I was holding up there. And one of the things that came out was the person I was quarantining with has a lot of sensory issues, especially around smell. And 25% about what I wrote was about that particular thing. And at that moment, I realized that we needed to do some brainstorming so that they were more comfortable and I could cook and I could bake. And so we made a few choices and a couple of purchases and planned schedules, and it's going a lot better. So I don't know what is coming to the forefront and what you have written, but I would encourage you. Oh, that's funny. Yesenia said you went from writing your feelings and switched to a to-do list. That's fantastic, because whatever your brain needs to do, that's what you need to do. one of the concerns that some folks have about the quarantine time is around trauma. So when people experience things that are just way too much for them to process, and they are unable to sort it out, and it can affect them. It can affect their sleep. It can affect them with anxiety. It can affect them with so many things. And so I would encourage you that if there are things that you're having a hard time processing, to reach out and get the help that you need. Becky, you have a really good idea for this, don't you?
Yeah, for me, I volunteer as much as I can. I give what I can, and I help whenever possible. But first, I need, and I'm so sorry about the background noise. Of course, somebody has to knock on the door. Um, but first, I need to take care of myself by letting go of anger, hostility towards others, offenses, or discouragement. The heaviest thing I will ever carry is a grudge. I tend to dump everything on God. No one knows better than him what kind of punches will be thrown in my direction, or how harshly I am affected by the day's load of chaos in my life. When I am wounded, he is my healer.
It's so true. So, in in addition to dealing with hard feelings and grudges, there's some other things that we're going to look at too, such as food and sleep, and the food one you're going to love. But we want you to know it's not a prescription. Again, it's unique to you. And if somebody says this is what you need to do, and you say, oh, and you roll your eyes, I would encourage you to brainstorm that, rethink that, because your self-care should be things that boost you up. So, and it can aid in your recovery. Yesenia, you have a thought about something that usually boosts you up. Go ahead.
Yes, I was mentioning this to my coworker a few days ago, and one of my things that I like to do is go shopping alone. And we were talking about that's still doing errands, and that's still doing a chore, even though it's alone and it's more peaceful. But what I usually do is when I get home, before I go inside the house, I usually will take just a few minutes. I'll stay in the car about 5-10 minutes, and I just close my eyes, take a deep breath, and just listen to my surroundings. Whatever's on the radio, I just like really focus, and just 10 minutes for myself before I go back inside the house. And that just really helps me kind of come back. It relaxes me, and that's my personal little resilient booster.
And I love that this doesn't have to be a spa day. You can just just put little things in your day to help. And Melissa, speaking of things that help, go ahead.
Often when we think about food, it's just, if we're blessed, it's something where it's just a common everyday thing. So we don't think about how important it is to building our bodies and building our brains, how it can also improve your health, or make your health worse. And the same is true for mood. So depending on what you eat, I have two examples here. We see this really tasty looking hamburger, which is fine in moderation, but then there's also the salmon. So wild caught salmon full of omega-3s is so beautiful for your health, right? So food, depending on how you prepare it and with whom you're eating it, can have a massive impact on your health. You can one of the things I like to consider is an ancestral diet. And what I mean by ancestral, it's something that your grandmother, 6-8 times removed would have been consuming, or your grandfather. And what happens often when you consume an ancestral diet, not always, and this is not a guarantee or a promise, but what often happens is that symptoms and symptomologies of diseases and conditions and syndromes can start to dissipate. It's not necessarily completely eliminated, but sometimes it can actually start to alleviate some of the discomfort that you're feeling. And you think of it food is also what's feeding your brain. Your brain consumes a lot of calories. But when you think about everything your brain does, it makes perfect sense. So when I mentioned food and preparation, how it can have a significant impact on your mood, think about if you are able to prepare food that is true to yourself, but also tasty and not outside of, so always venture out and check different foods. But if you're eating something that's sustainable for you and you're listening to your body will often tell you how it feels about a certain food within 30 minutes to 2 hours. Sometimes pain isn't what's signaled, it's because the intestinal tract doesn't have a lot of pain sensors. But other times your body will express other ways, and I'm sure you can figure out what I'm talking about. Eating food with friends and family is so impactful. It's so helpful for your mood and your longevity. There's studies that prove it increases your longevity. In the era of COVID, that's a completely different situation. But while you may still eat alone, you could choose to engage with your friends and family virtually. And again, prepare your food in a way that's authentic and tasty to you. And I believe Becky has some more stuff to say about the food as well as Yesenia. So I'm excited to hear everything they have to say in regards to eating in a way that's true to them and being mindful and healthy.
Yes, so the plant slant mentioned in the Blue Zones project here in Klamath Falls is the concept to lean more towards fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as nuts and beans. Eating healthy has a huge effect on your brain, as Melissa said, as well as your body. Hydrate with water to keep the impurities continuously washing out. When raising children, it is so important to teach them good habits about eating that will benefit them forever. And the best way to teach is through example. I remember a young teenager that lived in my house for about a year. Her first job was at a fast food place. And after just a few days of work, she came home and announced that she was now a vegetarian and would no longer be eating certain foods. To this day, several years later, she has maintained that thought.
And for us, and like I mentioned before, I'm Mexican American, and food is our world. In our culture, food is always the centerpiece. Family and food. But eating healthy, like typically we would eat tamales, bread, champurrado, and it was just in our culture that's very normal. But we can still eat healthy, and still not lose our culture. For example, in this slide, we have fish tacos, ceviche, guacamole, nopales, which is a cactus. Not only are these foods delicious, but they're also wonderful. They also have wonderful health benefits. For example, the nopales or cactus, they're antiviral, protects nerve cells, regulate blood sugar levels, and reduces cholesterol. So like Melissa was saying, you could really feel after you eat, like your body could really tell like if you ate something healthy or not. So you don't have to lose that part of your culture or that taste buds and still be eating healthy.
Yum. Sorry for making you hungry. So Melissa, nothing, I think talking about resilience wouldn't be complete without discussing exercise. And I love how you framed this whole conversation around exercise.
Well, exercise, when you typically think about it, what you picture is somebody going into a gym and running on a treadmill. And if you're anything like me, that might sound slightly miserable. Um, I love working out, but I can't do that. That is not sustainable for me, and it's also inauthentic. So what you do with exercise is, one, reframe your mindset. So what I have here is exercise for relief. So that, to relieve any pain you may be feeling, to relieve a depressed mood, to release anxiety, and it doesn't have to be tedious. So you can choose what exercise you want to do and just make sure it's enjoyable and sustainable. So do you want to garden, dance, walk? It doesn't have to be what other folks say it has to be. And it also doesn't have to be in long blocks. Normally we think of these 30-minute blocks or these hour or 90-minute blocks of working out. And for everyone that's a parent or has a life or something else they'd rather do, 90 minutes sounds miserable. But if you do 10-minute blocks, it's clinically proven that it actually has the same effect as if you do a large block of exercise. So break it up and do something that's authentic to you. And then also, in regards to exercise, it's something that helps remove cortisol from the body. So cortisol is a stress hormone. So when you start getting really stressed out, that fight, flight, or freeze, and that feeling takes over, actually getting up and moving and shaking that off your body is helpful. And it's also a natural mood booster. So it's something that I invite all of you to rethink, so that way you can do it in a way that feels good for you. And I believe Yesenia has some stellar ideas regarding exercise.
Perfect. But right before we get to that, I believe Becky might have something as well. Oh, Becky, you're on mute.
I have a lot of background noise going on right now. Some of the most fun times my kids had when they were young was walking to the park with their grandmother. She would take all 8 of my girls and head a few blocks down to the park in Santa Clara, California. They talked nonstop, and she was totally exhausted when she got back, but the next day she would be doing it all over again. We have some great parks in Klamath County. Our community has set random hand-painted pianos all over our downtown area for anyone who wants to play. One of our parks has many large planted cymbals for people to play. Just getting out of your home to walk around the block or to the market and back is great exercise, and taking in all the different pieces of nature can be very soothing to the mind. Get out and move, even if it means rolling in a wheelchair. You got this.
Thank you, Becky. And it's so true. As I stated before, and this is what I was saying, you'll get to know me more and more as we went through the slides. I have 2 children, my son born with disabilities, as well as I'm working and taking care of the household and doing so many things that I honestly don't have time to exercise. I wish I could say I'm going to put an hour and go to the gym, but that's just not realistic in my life. So it's okay to think outside the box. With me, with being so busy, I had to really consider, like, okay, how can we put exercise, especially for my children? I know it's really important to maintain that, and for the kids to know that exercise is very important. One of the things, though, when I'm kind of balancing my life, for me, quality time with my kids is very important. Even if it's like 5-10 minutes playing a board game. So we've modified our board game and added silly dance and exercise while playing. For example, Candyland, we added the different exercises, and we put the spinner wheel. So in the regular spinner wheel where it just has the colors, we went ahead and added that 1-minute silly dance, 30 push-ups, 10 jumping jacks. Not only is it hilarious, especially my daughter recording me, because I can, trust me, I think it's more about everybody laughing at me attempting to do the exercises. But it's something very fun. We're all laughing, we're giggling. Unfortunately, a lot of those videos are on Facebook right now. But it's just amazing. And we're building quality time together, great memories, and exercising. So don't be afraid to think outside the box, whatever that looks for you.
Oh, and like you said, that just sounds like so much fun. I can picture my kids. I'm thankful that my kids were grown up before they could post videos of me because I would never live it down. Love to dance with the 80s. So as we're talking today, connection is so important. That social, we're built for relationship. We truly are as human beings. And so connection can be more challenging. I loved what Melissa shared about, eating a meal with friends on Zoom. I know we had a Zoom birthday party, and beforehand, I had taken cupcakes to my friend's house. And so we all held up the cupcakes and sang happy birthday. And, I know it's not the same. I know it's not the same, even as today, it's not the same for us as being in the same room together. But truly, this is the next best thing. So this is what we have to work with. And that's part of being resilient is adapting. So as you're connecting, I'd love to see some ideas in the chats of ways that you've been connecting. Becky, you have had some interesting experiences during COVID. Would you share those with us?
I have. Staying connected during the pandemic began as a struggle for me. Right off the bat, my kids announced that I would not be going shopping. No stores. Make a list, Mom. We got this. Also, they prohibited anyone from coming in. But actually, I kind of liked living in my pajamas and my slippers. I showered, but I didn't have to fix my hair, and my hair liked that. So, so it really kind of worked for me. I did connect through through note cards and phone calls. Having a 24/7 NAMI warm line, my phone rang all day and all weekend. So I was able to talk to a lot of different people all the time. But I did it through the phone and stayed connected that way.
And as you can as remember, you're visualizing my big fat Greek wedding. Our family is very large. Most of my family are in Los Angeles, so that's changed quite a bit. But my grandma typically is going house to house. She never is in one place. So we always joke, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where is grandma? With COVID, that stopped. And that has really affected my grandmother because she just was so used to seeing all the grandkids and cousins and family. But we've actually the parade, my grandmother was outside on her birthday. She was wearing the mask. Nobody was allowed to get close to her, but all the cousins were driving by with signs and just to kind of say, you're here, we love you. I know we're still here, we love you. And it's one of the nicest things is that virtual. I'm in Oregon now. I'm not able to be in California and visiting grandma, but we were there on social media. We were watching her, we were commenting, and all those messages were being passed to my grandmother. So I know it's hard, but we do, like I said before, we got to think outside the box and still connect with our families.
And I see in the chat, Jacqueline said they had her mother-in-law over for an outdoor dinner and everyone was 6 feet apart and wore face coverings when not eating. And, we have started to do that too. We're hoping to get some time. We just built a little fire pit in the backyard and hoping to be able to use that even if it's cold out. Monica, they do a lot of FaceTime calls. That's excellent. Being outside is hard when the rains are coming. I do have to say, I do hike with someone who's 87 and we go out in the forest and the forest usually keeps a lot of the rain off of us. So, and we always pack a thermos of hot tea. And one of the things that Kristen's family has done is they drop off care packages and friends and family with arts and crafts, movies, and snacks. And that's so great. That is just wonderful. I appreciate everybody sharing about that. And the other part of being connected is not only being connected to other people, but being connected to yourself. And Melissa, would you talk to us about that?
Thank you, Shauna. And I'd also like to acknowledge that this has definitely been an unprecedented time. And I attended my very first Zoom hollow wedding and over Halloween, obviously. And while it was challenging because you can't, get a good look at the bride's dress, it was also beautiful because those folks that could not have attended her wedding due to whatever, costs or anything along those lines were actually able to attend. So that was beautiful. Living authentically. So one of the things I read recently was saying that if your true authentic self is at odds with your inauthentic self, it can increase anxiety, right? You can start to feel more uncomfortable. And personally, I've had that experience. And I like to say that your true self exists outside of what other people tell you that you are. Sometimes people can put labels, they can attach labels. Some of them are true, some of them aren't. Some of them are really just their perception of you and not actually authentic to what you believe you are and who you are. This can include family, society, and just your smaller community. Have you ever been called something you're not and then wind up living up to that expectation? That's called labeling theory in counseling. So, what I consider folks, what I ask people to consider is looking deeper. Look deeper into what you believe you are and imagine living your true whole self as you want to live. So I remember as a little girl, we could not wear pants to church. I could not wear pants. And I remember I turned 16, and you know what I did? I wore pants to church. And it didn't change anything for me outside of, my people have looked askance at me, but outside of that, it didn't change anything. But that was an expectation placed on on me and other folks in the church. And so I know there's many people, many of you who are probably living your authentic selves, but there's always room to grow. So if there's a space where you're like, you know what, so and so 20 years ago told me that I was X, Y, and Z, and let me revisit that and question those words in my life and their impact.
Really good. And Melissa, you will be leading us in our, we're going to have 2 more of these for Wellness Wednesdays. Next week, we're going to discuss natural supports and building help and building those social networks. And then on December 9th, I believe it is, you will be leading us in building resilience while addressing burnout. So make sure you sign up for those. Whoops. So part of living authentically is listening to your feelings. And, right now is hard. There have been things that, even if they're like, I don't know, sometimes I hear people say, I shouldn't feel bad that I didn't get to, go on my vacation or see my parents, or I shouldn't feel bad, things could be so much worse. And yet those are this collective grieving process that we're going through. Grieving what life looked like pre-2020 versus what it looks like today. And I would encourage you to allow yourself to have feelings. Feelings in and of themselves are not bad. What we do with them may be healthy or unhealthy, but having a feeling is not bad. So when you hear, a lot of times hear people say, hold on to the positive. Huge fan of that. But I also think it's really important to acknowledge where you are, because once you know where you are, then you can, figure out where you're going. So part of the discussion that I had with Lisa from the Grand Ronde tribe was around their water river cleaning ritual. And what it is you go to a river or where it's flowing, and they do it in community. So like they will use sage and they will burn the sage and go around a person. And they do this silently. And it's as a witness, your story is yours. You get to say what your story is. People can't tell you, this is how it is. No, your story is your own. And they go around your body with the sage, and they go up and down. and they, you know, turn you around, and then you go into the river and you face downstream. And as you face downstream, you let those negative things go that you're ready to let go. And then when you're done, you turn around and you face upstream and you welcome everything, all the good that's coming your way. And it's just a really beautiful, beautiful ritual. Becky, you have experienced a lot as a grandparent raising your grandchild. Can you please share with us about that?
Well, I try to start every day anew, giving very little thought to any negatives or anger from the day before. Sometimes raising children can look like a battlefield. So if I've had to endure any harsh criticism or hostility, even from my kiddo, my sentences begin with, I forgive so and so for whatever the situation was, knowing that their anger or hostility has more to do with them and less to do with me. Forgiveness is a powerful tool in taking care of oneself. Harboring harsh feelings can actually make you ill. I have seen many people come into grandparents' parent support group shattered and falling apart and so enraged with their kids' lack of parenting skills when they have been raised quite differently. Sometimes young parents have issues going on that no one knows anything about, diagnosed or undiagnosed, or how to maneuver through it. Education can be vital in a situation like that.
It's so true. And if you need help, there is help available. Jenny posted in the chat how to find a therapist with Psychology Today. And then there's also Reach Out Oregon, which has trained parent peer support. So if you're helping a child who's going through mental health challenges, give them a call because they could be very helpful. So speaking of helpful, vital for processing, right? Go ahead.
You know, Becky mentioned that, you know, not holding harsh feelings could rob you of good health, but it can also rob you of sleep, right? And sleep for some of us can be very elusive. We can fall asleep quickly and then wake up many, many times a night, or take forever to fall asleep, or literally just have insomnia and don't sleep for several days. Ideal sleep isn't always achievable, so the goal is to get whatever your best is, accept where you're at and get whatever your best is. So I have a few tips here. So using your bed for only bedtime activities. Now, if that's something that is attainable and sustainable for you, then definitely consider that if you're fighting insomnia. If it's not, then create a routine around getting ready for bed and changing the look of your bed or the room around you, so that way um, your brain can know that it's time to rest now. So if that means, if you're someone that, you know, does your work or your homework, or, you know, you live life from the bed, then changing your comforter, changing your pillowcase, sprinkling your pillowcase with a certain scent. Some people enjoy lavender to help them rest. I also suggest avoiding lemon scented things, as it can be very stimulating. So if you are someone like me that cleans with lemon scented things, maybe not the best thing to do around bedtime. Other possible helps are using blue light blocking glasses. So screens, whether that's your Kindle, your computer, your TV, your laptop, your cell, everything has this blue light that emits and is very stimulating to you. Your brain is like, it's time to wake up. So instead of being affected as much by that blue light that emits, blue light blocking glasses, or if you are really stellar and keen, I am not, actually stopping the screens an hour before bed. So if you're someone that can say, I am no longer looking at any screen, whether it's a TV or computer or phone, Kindle, setting it down, then that works just as well. And then another thing to consider is your circadian rhythm, which can get thrown off by so much. So Lux lights in the morning can help you reset your circadian rhythm. And if that is not feasible, early morning sun works even better. It's ideal. So you want to be outside before 10 a.m., not wearing sunglasses, and spend a little bit of time outside, whether that's, going and watering your plants, whatever that looks like for you, to help you achieve that ideal sleep. And like Becky said, letting some stuff go in order to try to achieve a restful mind as much as you can. Do your best.
And with that, I have no problem sleeping. I could sleep. My situation is I have kids who struggle sometimes. My son, he was also born with visually impaired, so he is legally blind. And one of the hardest things is that he can't tell the difference between night and day. He doesn't get the light sensitivity. So he will sleep. He has no problem sleeping 8 to 12 hours a day. And I say a day because that's the problem, is sometimes his nights and days switches. So he will go to sleep at 2 p.m. and he is a very heavy sleeper, and won't wake up till like 10, 11 o'clock at night. What that means is that he's up all night because he had his 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So for me, at the very beginning, when he was born, I wanted to do everything myself. I was like, I want to be that super mom. I want to be able to do it by myself and not ask for help. And when I was about 96 hours of no sleep, and I remember begging God to please give me either an appendicitis or some kind of organ failure so I could be in the hospital so I could sleep. I mean, when it comes to that point, when I'm begging God, please send me to the hospital, I realized I am a super mom. I don't need to act like I am. I can ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And I know with COVID, it is a little bit different, but please reach out. There are tons of family members, friends that would love to help out if we just ask. And don't worry, I know I'm a super mom. You are a super mom or dad as well. And it's okay to ask for help.
Oh, thank you so much. So, Melissa, you wanted to talk about radical acceptance, but for the sake of time, can you do that in December for us? Will that work for you? Okay, thank you so much. So, as we are closing up, we're going to talk about some super soothing ideas. Sensory ideas, anything patterned, repetitive, and rhythmic can be wonderful. So, Becky, you want to share some ideas?
Sure. Different people soothe in different ways, whatever works for you. Baking is a great way to help soothe for many people. Reading, crocheting, knitting, and coloring are all great ways to soothe and relax. I have a friend that came to my house several times in a 2 week period to take out and stack up all the bricks in a small patio area that I wanted to redo. She said it was therapy for her and she loved working with the brick. Not my favorite way to soothe, but her and her husband did a great job. And I like to listen to Christian music on YouTube. Depending on how my day is going, I will listen to 20 to 30 minutes or as much as 2 hours until my brain settles and my heart feels at peace. And I have let go of anything that's trying to take me down.
Melissa?
So one of the things I really enjoy doing outside of popping bubbles, if that's something I can do in the moment, is going to the beach. And I like going to the beach because what it allows me to do is hear those waves. Reminds me how small I really am. And that sound, being able to go with my most beloveds is, the most phenomenal experience. And, sometimes something as simple as sitting down, reading a book, and just taking time to call friends and family when I can't get to the beach, are such calming activities for me.
For me, just taking a hot shower. I mean, I go in and slowly remove or lower the cold water where it's just plain hot. I get out of the shower and it looks like a sauna, but it just gives me that sensory, relaxes me, and it just puts me in such a good mood.
And breathing is so, so important too. Sadly, we do not have time about breathing, but would you talk to us about it real quick, Melissa?
So I was going to lead you through an exercise, and basically what you would do is relax all the muscles in your body, and put your feet flat on the floor, and allow your weight to be supported by whatever you're on. So if that's the floor, the couch, your chair, and then basically taking some deep inhalations through your nose, holding it for just a couple of seconds if that's something that's feasible for you, and then breathing it back out through your mouth, excuse me, in through your nose, out through your mouth.
And I'm still doing it.
Okay, yeah, I was too.
And I've been doing it the whole time. Yeah, I've been.
So, Becky, did you want to mention a little bit about deep breathing?
Yeah, in the face of crisis or chaos, I try to remember to stop, take a deep breath, and check my stress at the door. A few deep breaths can help you refocus your thoughts and give your brain a little charge. Deep breathing is not only good for your body, but also good for your brain. This is why walking is such a great exercise. When you walk, even on a treadmill, you automatically breathe deeper.
So true. So we want to just remind you to have grace for yourself and others. You most likely will because of stress, you'll have a shorter temper and those kind of things. Practice self-care. Join us, if you will, on November 18th and December 9th. Melissa, please you're going to do the expanded breath. Can you do that for us next week too?
Yes.
We'll do it both the next time.
Yes.
So we want to leave you with a few resources before we open up for questions. So NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, there's an affiliate in many places all over the state. So go to NAMI.org and look that up. They have free classes and things like that. Reach Out Oregon that we've alluded to. Lines for Life is suicide prevention, but you can call them about anything, as well as 211 Info. If you're not safe, Oregon Coalition has some resources to help with that. And then the My3 app, which is great. It can have your 3 people that you call when you're just so overwhelmed you don't know what to do. And as always, CODSN, they have great resources, especially around COVID. And you can contact Melissa on Instagram with Inspired Boldness. And then there's my website there. We have a hand raised. So let's see, if you would like to unmute yourself, that would be fantastic. Go ahead to ask the question. I'm trying to see, there was a hand raised. Was that just, oh, it was accidental. Okay. All right. So then with that, I would like, does anyone else have any thoughts or questions? Okay. And so Jenny, would you be able to post our, actually I can do it. Why don't we have each one of us go through and give just any last thoughts, and I will post our emails there and we will finish up. Go ahead.
And Jenny did send she posted all our emails.
Oh, she did. Okay. I'm not seeing it. Oh, there they are. Sorry. You did it, Jenny. I'm sorry. We just had so many other things. So, okay. I apologize. So if you want to get a hold of any of us, we really would love to speak with you. You know, this is a hard time. We can get through it together. And knowing that it is hard to make that first call, I encourage you to join us next week for natural supports as we discuss some of the barriers, but also there's so many benefits and you'll be amazed. It's going to be fun. So, Becky, do you have any last thoughts for us?
I don't. I just wanted to stipulate a little bit more on My 3 app. There's all kinds of information on there, and especially if you have a student, it is a great way for them to know that they can connect within seconds if something goes wrong for them, or maybe somebody they know. They can get help almost immediately.
That's great. Thank you. And Yesenia?
I just want to say, with everything that's happening with COVID, it's perfectly fine to reach out. We got to think outside the box. And, we're here. Feel free to contact me whenever you like. I'm now making friends with a random person behind me just because I'm wanting to chat with someone. So just reach out. We're here.
And Yesenia, you speak Spanish as well, so feel free to share that. And Melissa, will you close us out today?
Thank you, Shauna. It has been an absolute pleasure to listen to all of you, and thank you for everyone that's attended. One of the things that came up in the chat was, this notion of boundaries, and boundaries, while they're so incredibly necessary, they can be so difficult to set, especially in the era of COVID-19. It could just make things so much more difficult. One thing that I suggest, and you can take it or leave it, like it or lump it, but learn to set boundaries for yourself and for others and maintain them. And then also to offer grace for yourself as well as others, because none of us alive have lived through a time like this. So show grace for yourself. It's okay if you can't get everything done today that you thought you could do. It's okay. You're in the midst of a pandemic. You got out of bed. That's all that matters.
Yay!
I wish you well. Take the best of care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Okay, thank you. So Jenny's going to close us out, and I will do a quick conference call with the three of us. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, a bottle of fluff I see.